Violence ripped through Chicago over the weekend with at least 40 shots in a less than 7-hour period. The violent streak contributing to one of the city's bloodiest weekends of the year. In all, from Friday afternoon to early Monday, 73 people were shot. Of those, 11 were killed, according to the Chicago Tribune.
We know that some of these incidents were targeted and are related to gang conflicts in those areas. CPD detectives are working around the clock to investigate the incidents.
Among the attacks, police said gunmen targeted a block party and a gathering after a funeral. Their victims' ages spanning from 11 to 62 years old. The shootings coming as thousands converged for Lollapalooza, a massive music festival in Chicago's downtown. It also comes as authorities say gun violence in the city has dropped.
We've seen a citywide reduction in murders by 25% so far this year, and a reduction in shooting of over 30%. That's not a victory by any means or any stretch, but we continue to head in the right direction.
Jumping into the gun violence debates was President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who in a series of tweets blamed Democrats for the violence and ended his tirade by saying, quote, "Make Chicago safe again."
Now they're saying no arrests have been made. They were also just talking about the 32-year-old woman who was found dead around 9 p.m. Sunday in a bathtub with her hands and feet bound. Police did not reveal how the woman was slain. Well, we're sure that didn't have nothing to do with the Lollapalooza. But the thing is, and I mean, y'all can just pause and read. I'm not going to read all this. It's pretty much what has been said in all the news clips. So, I'm not going to really read it. So, you just pause it and, read it as you go. But what I do want to ask is, what are we keeping our eyes on Chicago for? Why does the government want us to keep our eyes on Chicago? Because if we keep our eyes on Chicago, could we be blindsided from behind? Are they about to do something in Chicago that's just so catastrophic that, they want everyone to see? Or is this, like I said at first, merely just a distraction from other things that's going on in the world? Because over the last few years, Chicago has really been in the spotlight. More over the last year than some. Now they're saying even with this shooting, the Chicago violence and death rate is down, and that they're, still working to control and resolve this issue. But I feel like it's something real sinister going on in Chicago. And like I said, y'all can just, if you want to read that article, you can just pause it. Or you can, this is the U.S. Today news. You can go back and check it out and read it. But I just want to know, what does the government have going on? Because remember, New Orleans used to be in the spotlight like this. and then they blew up the levee and washed out, a majority of that city. And it was just ongoing New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, until I feel, my opinion, the government did away with the people in New Orleans that they feel were causing a lot of problems. Y'all excuse my neighbor, excuse my little girl, but I'm just saying that it is something going on. Something is going to happen in Chicago. And when it does, it's going to take people by surprise. But I don't feel that it should take people by surprise, because I'm a firm believer that you get warning before destruction. And I feel like they try this in different cities to see which one is going to get the most reaction. And usually the one that get the most reaction is a minority-based populated area. Can I just say it like that? Do you follow what I mean? But if you think about the things that has went on in places that has had so-called natural disasters to happen, they were in the limelight for years. And it's always about violence. It's always about the drugs or the low poverty and whatever else have you. And then something comes along like a flood, a tsunami, a earthquake, storms in the middle of April pertaining to blizzards and snowfall, and same in May. It's just odd things happening with the weather. I feel like it is genetically engineered. And I feel like something of that nature is going to happen in Chicago. But I also feel like putting a big hype on Chicago is also distracting us from other things that's going on. I.e., you're finna have humanoids as your neighbors here soon. Things like that. Nobody's really paying attention to what the United States is doing with Russia right now, because a lot of people or a lot of minorities are focused on things that's happening in Chicago, things that's happening in the Bronx or whatever have you, because I feel like it's been a lot of minority based areas that are being targeted pertaining to the violence and the low poverty and the drugs or gangs or whatever have you. And I do feel like it is going to be something to happen that is going to seem like a natural disaster, but it is all genetically engineered. I hope you understand what I'm saying. But I just want to say that, first of all, my heart do go out to everyone that is affected and those that have lost their life, those that were wounded, or anyway involved in the shooting over the weekend in Chicago. But I'm more concerned about the bigger picture onto why they're drawing a lot of attention towards that area, And I just feel like that's just something to ponder upon, because we have seen this in other low poverty, minority, based areas, and history always, not seldomly, but history always repeats itself. So my question is, are we about to experience another, because what we're finna roll into is like the hurricane seasons and all of that stuff. So are they prepping us for this year to come through and do some type of genetically engineered storm or natural catastrophe around this area? Could the government be up to something a little more sinister than that? But whatever the case may be, only time will tell. But it is something about to happen in this area. It is something about to happen, in the world that a lot of people are not going to be prepared for. And so I feel like people need to start reading and researching as much as they can about, the government and the government's plan, things that they're trying to do away with, understand why they want to do away with it, because they make it seem like it's for the citizens' benefits when it's really not. So I feel like a lot of people should just really start reading and, paying attention. And I know we skip over the news channel all the time when they're having their speeches and lectures. A lot of people don't sit there and really watch those because they're 2-3 hours long or whatever have you. But I mean, like, hey, you need to record it and just go back and, watch as much as you can when you can. And some of the words that you don't understand, write them down. Go look them up. Find out what this stuff means. Find out what these people are saying before, you can't defend yourself. Because you're voting and you're agreeing with people in office on things that they tell you. And then they use, big words that common people may not use on a regular basis, so they might not regularly identify what that word means per se, and they don't take the time to go look it up. They don't take the time to, take notes during the speech. Things you don't understand, write it down so you can go back and look it up later. People don't take the time to do that. And if you would take the time, just 10 minutes to do that when you're watching anything to do with the presidents and the politics, you will see that a lot of the things that they speak is on a loop. They just change up the words, rephrase it, but they're really telling you the same thing. Like, if y'all don't wake up, we finna destroy you, basically. And it's a lot of things that's finna be invoked on society that people are not aware of. And I just strongly feel like this is going to be another situation to where we're watching this certain area. And for one, either we're going to be blindsided and attacked from the back, or we're finna watch another just national disaster, a national tragedy where everybody emotions are involved. Because during the time, like I was saying about New Orleans, during the time with Katrina, that affected the world, because everywhere, and they called them fugitives, and that was so disrespectful, but everywhere was affected because they were shipped off just random puppies, just shipped off, just shipped out. They didn't care where they took them. They didn't care where they landed. When they got out, they just had to fend for themselves. So another thing that happened with that, during that time, the violence and the crime rate went back up because those people basically lost everything. So in that moment, it became survival of the fittest. I mean, like, square biz. You either had to get in where you fit in, or you finna get left. Simple as that. So when those people moved, they're accustomed to living a certain way. And so, like, when the people came out to Houston, a lot of people looked at them like they had leprosy or something, like they was just a foreign object that they've never seen before, because they talk different, because they walk different, because they dress different, but I experienced the same thing when I first went to Texas too, by being from Louisiana. Our demeanors are different. And, some of them, that was the first time ever leaving, like, the Ninth Ward, or ever leaving New Orleans, period. So having to just pick up and just learn how to adapt to a new environment, new people, new way of living, it's hard for some people, which caused problems. Because when they were transported and had to move, okay, they still had to figure out, how am I going to survive? How am I going to eat? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to find my kids? How am I going to find my other relatives? It was a lot of things going through those people's mind. I talked to a lot of them from where I worked. So I got to meet a lot of people that, were brought to their area, from the Katrina situation. And, just listening to their stories really just broke me down. Like, daily, just broke me down. I saw footage on their phones that never made the news, that never made social media. Still to this day, I have the images of those videos in my head, but I've never seen them anywhere on social media. So you only got to see what the media showed you, but I got to see what those people were going through. Like, for real, for real. I got to hear how they were being talked to while they were getting on the bus. I got to hear how they were being talked to while they were, lining up trying to get a sip of water or something. I got to hear the things that they blacked out on the news. To when, you don't hear any sound, now you just hear the news broadcaster. See, I got to hear the sound. I got to experience everything but the smell. And the way they described the smell, I was kind of glad that I didn't experience the smell. But I'm just sitting here thinking, like, is this about to happen again? Why do we need to stay focused on Chicago? I really feel like we need to pay attention to the politics and to the presidential house and see what is really going on. Are we looking in the right spot? Or do we need to be aware of what's going on there, but really be trying to watch from behind? I don't know. Y'all, I done rambled on long enough. So y'all just get down in the comments and tell me what you think. And I'll see you there.